The Tennessee Titans have the first pick in the 2025 NFL draft, but they're either potentially looking to trade out of it or select someone that's not a quarterback. On today's episode, we're going to tell you why we don't think that's a good idea. That and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst over with Bleacher Report, and that's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion for those LSU Tigers. Guys, as always, thank y'all for tapping in with us each and every day, being our everydayers. We had a fun show. NFL draft storylines, buy or sell. The Tennessee Titans are either going to take a generational talent or trade out of the first pick and ignore quarterback altogether. We're going to talk about that. The Jets cutting Aaron Rodgers, the impact that it will have on the 2025 QB class. And with Travis Kelce's future uncertain, should the Chiefs go early and aggressive for tight end? Let's get into it, Keith. The Tennessee Titans, their GM came out and said, first of all, he said that, hey, we're not passing up on a generational talent. I don't know who in this class is a generational talent, but nonetheless, he said he won't pass up on the generational talent. Then now he's saying that they are open to potentially moving that first overall pick, Keith. And I think it becomes if you're in the war room or you're a scout for that team, it becomes a conversation of, do we take a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders if we stay at one, or do we pick a Abdul Carter and bolster our defense, knowing that we are probably going to either get a veteran quarterback that nobody really wants, probably because Sam Darnold's linked to other teams, or you're going to run it back with Will Levis?
Yeah, I definitely think the Tennessee Titans should just go ahead and draft a quarterback, because it's very rare that you have a positional need of quarterback and that you sit at one, right? Well, I'm not going to say it's rare, but when it aligns like that, then you need to go ahead and take a quarterback. And you have a couple different guys when I say, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, right? If you want to go a different way, and Will Howard, Jalen Milroe. Like, look at these guys. Look at the skill sets. Look what you have on your roster. Find a guy that fits with your head coach, right? And ask him, who do he think he can groom? So I think the thing is that you look at what aligns, and the Tennessee Titans should definitely draft a quarterback, because you feel like this, like the Titans aren't a horrible team, right? Like the roster from top to bottom isn't god awful, like it isn't ridiculous. But they need a quarterback, and it was apparent the past couple of years that they need a quarterback. So go ahead and draft the guy. If you feel really good about that quarterback, don't worry about trading. Now, and I get it, getting draft capital and things like that, but this is not the Chicago Bears situation, right? Like, it's a totally different dynamic. Like your biggest need as a team, and you seem as though you won't take steps forward without a quarterback, and you need a quarterback, so draft a quarterback. Like, it makes too much sense for me with the Tennessee Titans.
No, I agree with you, and I love Abdul Carter as a player. He's one of the top 2 to 3 players in this class for me. But at the same time, like you said, like, they've needed a quarterback for a couple years now, and I think if they had stability at quarterback and reliable play, I don't think they finished with the first overall pick in this year's draft. You know what I mean? Like you said, the roster is not terrible. And I think that's just where, because I had a conversation with our guy, Tyler, I think it's Rowan from Locked On Titans on Twitter a couple of days ago. And he's of the mindset, we can find a better quarterback next year. In next year's class is better than Shedeur and Cam Ward. And I said, listen, that's a very risky approach to take, because right now that entire draft class is leaning on one name, and that is Arch Manning, who the Mannings want him to go back to school and stay till a senior, like Eli and I believe Peyton did as well. That's the plan they have for him. They want him to get as much playing reps in college as possible, so he's fully developed and ready for the NFL. And who better to tell Arch Manning how beneficial that is than 2 Super Bowl champions who's his uncles? You know what I mean? Like, nobody else can tell you better than they can. So it's like, I don't foresee Arch even being in next year's class. So it's a lot of hopeful projection right now for the 2026 quarterback class. Will Cade Klubnik step up and be better? He was better this year, but will he be good enough to be a top 5 pick in 2026? we're hoping that Drew Aller takes that step and he's going to a worse pass catching situation because Tyler Warren's leaving and going to the NFL. They lost 2 more receivers to the portal. Like, they don't have a lot of weapons. You're hoping Carson Beck at Miami can pull a Cam Ward and rejuvenate his. It's just a lot of hope. So and I think something that you said, Keith, that was true. It's not often you get the first overall pick and you need a quarterback, but not only that, it's not often you're going to do it 2 years back to back to go have that opportunity to pick your quarterback. Brian Callahan, the head coach, was hired, I believe it was January 24th of 2024. So we said it in the summer when he got hired, we don't think this fits Will Levis. Come to find out, it didn't fit Will Levis, Keith. So it's a simple fact of the matter is let your coach pick his guy. Like, I'm not, if he's not different. If Brian Callahan says, listen, I think Will Howard in the second round will be the pick for me. Okay, cool. Like, that's fine. It's risky though, because Pittsburgh supposedly really likes Will Howard. So I'm not sure Will Howard makes it to the top of the second round if Pittsburgh doesn't bring back Russ or Justin Fields.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like, there is no guarantee. You have to have an extreme post, right? In which we know that these teams outside of trades, right, and trying to, I guess, leverage each other for different situations, they're not telling each other their draft plans. So you don't know for sure that Will Howard has a second round grade amongst everybody, and you're gonna be able to draft him, at the top of the second round. You don't know that that's going to happen. So that's another reason, DP, why I say, you know what, go ahead and draft a quarterback. And this is the thing, like some teams who end up getting a number 1 overall pick, right? They end up trading away 3 first rounders and 2 seconds, 2, like just players and so many different things. You earn the number 1 overall pick, right? So you don't have to trade anything away. You were one of the worst teams in the NFL. You're sitting there. Go ahead and take a quarterback if it's a need. If you miss, you have the opportunity to quickly move on, and you don't have to say, like, man, we're still in the hole with these draft picks that we gave up to get him, right? Like, you're not in the hole. You're just slotted where you slotted it. So you draft them, you figure it out, and then you move forward. And then the last thing, DP, is that Tennessee is not necessarily and I'm not talking about I don't want to say about the city. I like Nashville, the city, right? But
the food is phenomenal. The food is phenomenal in Nashville.
The franchise is not a hotbed for free agents to where they're like, we're definitely going to the Tennessee Titans, right? Like they're not
kicking out more money than everybody else.
Yeah, and that's the point, that you can't bank on the fact that you're going to get a Kirk Cousins, a Sam Darnold, any of these quarterbacks that come on a free agent market, and they're going to say, yeah, we want to go to the Titans. Like, you can't bank on it.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, especially with Sam Darnold was just throwing to and playing with in Minnesota, I don't think, unless you, again, are opening the bag and giving him a 3-year deal that is substantial amount of money, which that, in my opinion, would be a mistake for him as well. And I think the notion that, hey, we won't either we're not going to take a quarterback at 1 and we might trade out, or we draft the Abdul Carter. And we always say this, Keith, and you tell me how you feel. We always talk about like building the team for the quarterback. And don't get me wrong, having a top tier defense, as we saw in the Super Bowl Sunday night, it helps the quarterback, right? Like the Eagles offense was good and Jalen Hurts played well, but it was like a stretch of that game where like the Chiefs defense was playing good, but the Eagles defense was just forcing Mahomes into all type of mistakes. And it's like, well, when you have a really good defense, it complementary football. It helps your quarterback, right? So I understand that thought process of maybe adding a Abdul Carter with Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry and stuff like that. Don't get it wrong. That's you got to get to CJ Stroud. You have to get to Anthony Richardson. You got to get to Trevor Lawrence. But again, I think you're walking into that locker room to tell the veterans who are there, who have families, where we don't have a quarterback. And I think that's where it gets really risky.
Yep, and this is a deep edge rusher class too, DP. If you need one, go ahead and draft. You could double down and draft 2, right? At some point, you could do the Los Angeles Rams, get you a defensive tackle and an edge rusher, and be completely in a position to move forward. But DP, let's keep this thing going. Where are we going? To New York, Jets, Jets, right? Aaron Rodgers appears to be splitting ways. So what is that going to do as far as the impact on this QB class? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Football season may be over, but basketball is in full swing. And there's no better way to stay in the game than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Guys, this week I'm looking at Jason Tatum for more than 29 points, and I'm looking at Anthony Edwards for more than 5 rebounds. The best part, PrizePicks is quick and easy. You can set your lineup in less than 60 seconds, and their fast and secure withdrawals mean I get my winnings in as little as 15 minutes. So, guys, it's very, very simple here. You just need to download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDON NFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. The New York Jets are expected to cut or part ways with potential Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Keith, this is going to have an impact on the QB class, because now it really puts another team's name in the hat for, hey, we need quarterback. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're sitting in class and, hey, who doesn't have a number 2 pencil? You got 4 people raising their hands. Who doesn't have a quarterback? The Jets is another team in the back of the classroom lifting their hands up and say, well, we don't have that guy. We tried Zach Wilson. That didn't work. We went and got Aaron Rodgers. It's been a 2-year failure for us, and then moving on. And I think that opens the door, not for them because I think they have the 7th pick. I don't think they go 7th, but I do think that second round, we could hear a name like we just talked about in the first topic, right? A Will Howard. We could hear a name like a Jalen Milroe, or one of these next tier quarterbacks. I think, and that's Jackson Dart, second round. I think we could potentially get that, Keith. And either that, or you tell me if you think, do the Jets get aggressive and say, okay, Tennessee, you want to move out of 1? Well, let's move down to 7. We go up and get our quarterback with the first overall pick, or if Cleveland, for whatever reason, wants to move back, do you think they get aggressive and go quarterback to get a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, DP, I look at it as this, that not having Aaron Rodgers, you need a quarterback. And I think that sounds like a very, I guess, baseline statement, like obvious statement. But what I'm diving deeper into this part of it, that you have Devontae Adams on your roster. Devontae is older. Devontae is not sitting there for.
He's trying to get traded too.
Thank you. And then if he gets out of there, you got to think about it. He's teaching Garrett Wilson the game, right? Understanding what's going on. Because Garrett Wilson, you put up another bad year. Are you going to get paid all the money that you deserve, right? No, you're going to be on your second contract and you're not going to be getting paid top dollar as a wide receiver, right? So Garrett Wilson may say, I want to be out of here also, right? So the thing is that's what I'm saying, is that there's so much hinged upon them getting a good, because your whole team, it either stabilizes or completely crumbles, right? Like there's not. I don't think the Jets have an in between situation when you talk about the quarterback position. So with that being said, DP, I don't even know if you can sell just drafting the guy in the second round. Like even if you like Jalen Milroe or Will Howard, you kind of got to draft them in the first round. Because one, you can't leave it up to chance that you draft them. Yeah. 2, you have to show the locker room how much conviction you have in these guys, right? Like if you waited, that means that you don't love them, you just like them, right? And so I want you, if I'm Devontae Adams, like tell me you love them, right? So I could want to stay here. If I'm Garrett Wilson, tell me why this guy's going to help bring us to the playoffs, because you love him as a QB prospect. And I look at it from that perspective, but also you presented this, and DP at this point, with the Jets, I don't know, but I guess you should trade up to number 1, right? Like I don't know what to do with them. Like they've created one issue after another issue after another issue.
They have, and then with them bringing in, you brought in Aaron Glenn as your head coach. He went and plucked some guys from the Detroit Lions staff, Tanner Ekstrand, to be the offensive coordinator. He was one of the assistants in Detroit, and everything, and like not wanting to deal with. I get it, not wanting to deal with Aaron Rodgers. So, but like you said, you still got to have a quarterback. And this is a Jets team that has a good defense. They got players to be a playoff team, to contend with the right court. That's why you went and got Aaron Rodgers. You wouldn't have traded for Aaron Rodgers, or you wouldn't have went after him if you didn't believe you had the roster to compete with the Buffalo Bills. So, yeah, I think to your point, Keith, Go up and go. If the Tennessee Titans, this is what I do. If I'm the Jets, right, call their bluff. All right, Tennessee, you want to move down, right? Like, all right, let's talk. Let's put it all on the table. Let's curate a package of picks or whatever we need to do, and you move down and we'll move up. Like, what do you? Let's really like being at the poker table, Keith. Let's see if their poker face is strong. Are you really looking to move down, or are you just talking the talk and give us smoke screens because it's draft season? Because if they're willing to move down, absolutely, I'm trading whatever I can trade that doesn't cripple me from a roster standpoint and roster building standpoint to go up there, get one of these quarterbacks, whether it's Cam Ward or Shedeur, whichever one you have graded highest, go get your guy. Because like you said, even waiting to set to the second round and maybe Will Howard, Jackson Dart, and Jalen are still there, it's still a risk because you're like, okay, are they ready to start day one? Like, are we ready to start them right out the gate, or do we need to go get a veteran, right? And whether it's a Jameis Winston, someone, get a veteran that can come in, help teach them the game and get them prepared. I do think, like, if they were to wait to day two, I think second round, if he's there, which, I mean, the buzz around them suggests he won't be, is Jackson Dart. I think Jackson Dart would be a nice developmental piece for them, but you still got to go get a veteran. I don't think you start Jackson Dart right at the gate unless the entire rookie season is going to be with training wheels on so that you can get him up to speed, to be ready for the next year where you can you might have to Jared Goff him. And when I don't mean to say that in a negative sense, but remember when he was with the Rams, Sean McVay was like, I got up to the 10-second mark on the play clock to send you audibles and adjustments and tell you what I'm seeing and help you out. That was the first time I ever heard of a coach doing that to his starting quarterback. You might have to do something like that where you're super hands-on with Dart to really get him to where he can be and reach his ceiling because he's talented. But like we talked about on yesterday's pod, we just worry about the mental aspect of the game for him and handling an NFL offense right out the gate. He might need some time.
Well, DP, that's the other part to this Jets conversation, right? Is that you look at the head coach, and obviously I think Aaron Glenn has the opportunity to be a really good head coach, but he's also a defensive head coach, right? So the important part is the hiring, right? The coordinators, the QB coach, right? Like, because you would assume that obviously Aaron Glenn is going to be a part of the game planning part, but the detailed coaching part, he's a defensive guy. So you have to think about that portion of it too when drafting a young quarterback, right? Like, how much is he going to be hands-on as far as developing this guy and knowing exactly what he's supposed to do, his steps, his reads, his progressions, all of those different things. Usually that leans towards the QB coach, that leans towards the quarterback coach, that leans towards assistant QB coach, right? That type of situation. So there's a lot to kind of flush out for the New York Jets, and regardless of what I guess a veteran they get, they should draft a young quarterback, right, and figure that part out, and then pushing forward and moving forward. They need to seriously consider, if Aaron Rodgers is not coming back, do we try to get a top 3 pick and figure this thing out and draft a guy that we believe could be a top quarterback in this NFL draft? Because they, like I said, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, you got some Pro Bowlers on the defensive side of the football. They may all want out if you don't have a quarterback. They're not here to waste time. They were there because they were told that Aaron Rodgers was going to be there and they were going to win a Super Bowl. It's a hard thing to reconfigure your mental to saying, oh, we're not winning a Super Bowl. You know what we're doing? We're just trying to be 500, right? That's a totally different thing to try to figure out. Right. But DP, let's keep this thing going, man. And a guy that's won plenty of Super Bowls, Travis Kelce, right? Let's talk about his future being uncertain. Chiefs, should they draft a tight end, and which tight end prospect should they draft? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my Detroit Pistons for a late game comeback or picking Cade Cunningham or Malik Beasley to hit a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 back in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. Before the Super Bowl on Sunday, a lot of the coverage are surrounding Hall of Fame. He's going in the Hall of Fame, one of the best tight ends ever. Travis Kelce was that he's undecided on his future. I think that at one point one of the commentators said that he knows that he's still got a couple years left to play. He can play at a high level, but he's also feels like he can make more money off the field. So it's like, well, dollar bills, y'all. Will the money, you know what I mean? Will that make him make a decision and say, all right, I'm done, and walk off, even after this loss? But if he were to leave, Keith, and of course you will hope that he lets them know prior to the draft at least. If the Kansas City Chiefs are sitting there, I know they drafted Jared Wiley, who I liked in the middle of third round, whatever it was last year. I liked the skill set as a pure pass catcher, big, athletic, all that good stuff. Keith, I would absolutely, like I said, you do what you did last year. Be aggressive, right? Remember they made the trade for Xavier Worthy, with the Buffalo Bills, and some Bills fans to this day still feel like, hey, guys, what were we doing? Like, why did we trade with our arch nemesis and give them the fastest player in the world right now? I think that they should try to find a trade partner right above the Chargers. Get right in front of the Chargers, because the top two spots we look at for tight ends, top three, the Indianapolis Colts at like 14.
Yep.
And you know what? They might need to move in front of the Broncos, because I forgot that's also in your division.
The Broncos.
So you got the Broncos and Chargers, those two teams where in most situations, if the Colts went defense like corner or safety, something like that, with that 14th pick, and now you got Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland slipping into the late teens, early 20. Yeah, I might, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm calling my GM and said, let's go up and get a Colston Loveland to be that heir apparent to Travis Kelce. Similar skill sets in terms of just like pure receiving threat, 6'5", 240, great catch radius, really good mover and athlete. I think absolutely. And then you pair him with an Andy Reid. You know what I mean? I don't care who you got at tight end one. Any of these guys going, they're catching passes from Mahomes. You got Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. Probably they might bring back D-Hop. And then you got Andy Reid calling plays. It don't matter if it's Harold. I don't care if it's Harold Fannin, Elijah Arroyo. Like, whoever they drafted tight end is going to have a successful career, because they got the right guys at the helm to make so. Keith, do you think that they should be aggressive and going up to get like a Tyler Warren if they're falling into the early 20s, and just jumping them if Travis Kelce were to say, hey, listen, I'm done?
DP, a guy that comes to mind with this situation, and I think this is where you try to gauge it as much as possible, Elijah Arroyo. I think he would be perfect for this offense, right? Like what Travis Kelce offers as far as a blocker, I mean, is average to below average, right? But tight ends, we know none of them really, most of them are not elite blockers, right? And Elijah Arroyo, talking about the ability to separate, right? That classic stick nine route that Travis Kelce runs, right? We've seen Elijah Arroyo do it in person and then separate vertically. I think he would be a really good situation for them. So if they don't have to be completely aggressive as far as, trying to leverage so many different pieces to move into the top 15, top 20. If you feel like, hey, we could get Elijah Arroyo at the back in the second, I would go after him too. But I don't even know if he's going to last that far, because you're talking about 63, 64 picks into it. So maybe they have to get aggressive at some point in the second round. But I would definitely look at Elijah Arroyo as another opportunity. But obviously, I love Colston Loveland and what he can, offer and provide as a tight end prospect. I just, when we, I guess post the Super Bowl, right, and everything that's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs, you feel like, okay, do they go offensive line? Do they, like you assign like what
corner,
was
corner
maybe, right? Like you try to figure out what was the issue to where the game was that one-sided, right? And you seem like probably when you lose like that, it's more than one positional need that this team has. So I don't know if they can leverage everything to go get a tight end. And then now, they potentially don't have second, third, fourth round picks to fill out the rest of this roster to, get them back to the Super Bowl.
No, 100%. You're right about that. And I think that's a good point with Elijah Arroyo because, like you said, not having to out leverage yourself and truthfully, you start calling up the teams, you're gonna get that Kansas City tax. Like they're gonna try to take you for everything you were, truthfully. So now that you mentioned that, I definitely it depends on how far if the tight ends were to fall into the 20s, so where you don't have to jump into the top 18 and give up a bunch of draft capital. If they, you're at 31, if they fell to if they fell right before the Chargers, you try to jump right in front of them. But like you said, Elijah Arroyo, and I don't know how I forgot about him. He's my tight end 3 right now after the Senior Bowl, and then I just did his report and everything at Bleacher Report that either is up now or should be up later on this week. Yeah, this dude is a baller, man. And for whatever reason, Mario Cristobal, and no, get me wrong, I like Xavier Restrepo. They fed him, and I get it. They're their top receiver. But, man, Elijah Arroyo should have been more involved in that offense. He was like 5th on the team in, targets. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way 6'5", 250, legit athlete, route running, separation, ball skill. There's no way that is your fifth targeted option. You know what I mean? No, absolutely not, man. So, I think and to your point, maybe they can't wait until the 3rd round or late 2nd. I wouldn't be, listen, I mean, I know they probably need offensive tackle. You know what I mean? Maybe a Josh Simmons from Ohio State right there at 31. You know what I mean? But to bring him in, stuff like that. Because I think they were playing Joe Tooney, the guard, at tackle down the stretch in the season and everything like that at one point. I think even going into that game, I think Tooney was at left tackle, and he's a guard. So they definitely need to upgrade the offensive line. But if Arroyo's right there, I don't know if you can just be like, you know what, man, we can get him late in the second. I don't think he will. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think so. So I would absolutely be like, man, maybe at 31, or if you try to trade back for a team that wants a quarterback, right? If a team's at the middle of the 2nd round, they say, listen, we want to get up there, get that 5th-year option. Okay, get that extra second. Now you get an offensive tackle, or you get Elijah Arroyo, you get the offensive tackle at the back of the 2nd. And then you just got to hope that your offensive line coach can get him, Kingsley Suamataia, up to speed so that now you have two young tackles to build around Pat Mahomes.
Yep. No, I agree 100% with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. And come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.